DK3, the third record. With this one, there's no overarching story, no big concepts, no big 10, 13-minute epics on this one. With DK3, I just wanted to hard focus on the songwriting and making a collection of just simply the best songs possible. The idea with this one is that any one of the 9 songs could have been the single. Each song has its own importance, its own relevance to the record. So let's go track by track and break down each individual song. Compass opens the record. We open up on probably the most somber note, the sad acoustic ballad, kind of written in the same writing session as Follow the Rain, which we'll get to, but it was kind of the idea of where Follow the Rain is kind of a, all will be okay in the end, just keep moving forward and it'll be alright kind of vibe. With this one, it's kind of the flip on that, which is, what if you go through your life and it never actually gets better and everything just turns out to be a waste? And it's kind of like the inverse of that type of idea, and that's where we're starting. One Night is the next track. Instrumentally, this was actually a leftover demo from the Abeyance days, probably around 2019 or so. It's kind of that Dio, Whitesnake kind of vibe, more so focused on the riff, and everything kind of builds around that. But lyrically, it kind of dates to that time, that kind of rock star lifestyle mentality, just living for the moment, the here and now, regardless of whatever kind of craziness you get into, with no thought of, any sort of consequences or no thought of what comes the next day. Sorcerer was the first single. With this one, I knew this was going to be the single when I had the instrumental ready. Lyrically, I wanted it to be nothing deep whatsoever. I grew up on, Dio, the Scorpions, stuff like that, to where I wanted it to be escapism. I didn't want any deeper big meaning. It's just a whole little world you can get lost in. No deeper message. It's just a wizard battle. It's just something you can get lost in. It's total power fantasy. Sons and Daughters is a very Metallica-inspired track. It's also the one track where I get vaguely political, the stuff going on around the world. It's the kind of idea that, things going on right now, what will future generations say about how the current generation responded to these events, and will they look on this generation in shame? Our Queen wields a blade. This is more on the, once again, on the power fantasy kind of side. It's also kind of a follow-up to Got the Power from the first record. This idea of a warrior queen who slays all who oppose her kind of thing. Nothing much more to it than that, just fun power fantasy. Doesn't get more metal than that, right? Follow the Rain. Again, this is kind of the inverse of what was Compass, where the idea on this song is just that sentiment of keep moving forward, everything will be alright in the end. I love making big, grand, epic suites, but also I think it's just as powerful. Every once in a while, everyone needs a shorter, kind of motivational song to get them through a tough time, and this was my take on that kind of thing. Come to the Land, this one, more on that mystical power fantasy type of thing. But on this one, it's more of a religious angle instead of a wizard battle. This one is angels and demons, and the twist on this is that it's from the demons' perspective, and it's their fight for their cause to vanquish the angels. Kill the King. So for every Dani Keenan record, I always go into the vault of demos and unused riffs from all the bands and projects I've been in over the last decade or so. And this one in particular went way back. This is the first full song I ever wrote back in 2013 for my first band at the time, Cavalier. We performed a version of this, I think 2 or 3 times or so, way back in the day. I pulled this one out and I completely revamped it, redid the drums, and tidied up some of the lyrics and extended the solo section a bit. But the general essence of the song and the themes in it remained true to its original version. I just kind of revamped it and made it into the traditional metal masterpiece it was always meant to be. But then he closes up the record in traditional ballad, closing out the record. So many of my all-time favorites, I think that'd be the way to go. With this one, I really enjoyed playing around with the different tones and delays. This one is tonally the most experimental song on the record, but it doesn't stray too far from traditional song structure. I mean, I'm going to do that on this one. Thematically, this closes out with the general theme of trying really hard to get someone to change into something that they just refuse, and keep trying, and some people will just never be what you want them to be, even though you see the potential within them. And with that concludes the track by track. On streaming, I'll have a bonus track of a cover of one of my favorite Kiss songs, I Still Love You, on there. But yeah, DK3 out on January 10th. Available on all platforms, and I'll have physical copies available as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.